Cartoons are built to entertain, comfort, and spark imagination. But every so often, an episode crosses a strange line, whether through cultural misunderstanding, shocking imagery, or sheer bad luck. These episodes aired once, maybe twice, then vanished as if the networks themselves wanted to pretend they never existed. Today, we dig into the weirdest animated broadcasts that disappeared forever. Mr. Skinnylegs, Peppa Pig, 2004, banned in Australia. When parents think of Peppa Pig, they picture harmless lessons about sharing, family, and everyday childhood adventures. But one 2004 episode, Mr. Skinnylegs, caused such uproar that it was effectively erased, at least in certain parts of the world. The plot was simple. Peppa encounters a spider in her house and learns that spiders aren't scary. By befriending Mr. Skinnylegs, she delivers a cheerful message of tolerance and courage. In Britain, the lesson was considered sweet, but in Australia, the land of venomous redbacks and funnel-web spiders, the episode was a disaster waiting to happen. Australian parents were outraged. Instead of teaching kids to respect danger, the cartoon seemed to suggest that spiders were harmless pets. With real-life bites leading to hospitalizations, or worse, broadcasters realized the potential risk. The episode was quickly banned, removed from rotation, and never shown again in Australia. The fallout revealed a powerful truth. Cartoons are not created in a vacuum. What seems charming in one culture can be life-threatening in another. While British producers simply wanted to teach kindness, the show had inadvertently clashed with Australia's harsh reality. Even today, Mr. Skinnylegs exists mostly through online uploads and fan chatter. Its disappearance reminds us that context matters, even in children's cartoons. An innocent pig befriending a spider became a global controversy, one that turned a colorful preschool series into an unlikely cultural battleground. Electric Soldier Porygon, Pokémon, 1997, banned worldwide. Pokémon was a cultural phenomenon in the late 1990s, captivating millions of children. But one episode became infamous, not for its story, but for the chaos it caused in real life. On December 16, 1997, Japanese audiences tuned in to watch Electric Soldier Porygon, an episode that has never officially aired since. During a cyberspace battle, Pikachu unleashed an attack that filled the screen with flashing red and blue strobe effects. The sequence lasted only a few seconds, but the consequences were immediate and horrifying. Children across Japan began suffering seizures, nausea, headaches, and even temporary blindness. More than 600 kids were rushed to hospitals that night. The media branded it Pokémon Shock. The episode was instantly pulled from rotation, and broadcasters set new rules regulating flashing effects in animation. Although Pikachu delivered the attack, the Pokémon Porygon was unfairly blamed. To this day, Porygon has rarely appeared in the anime, treated like a blacklisted character. For many, the episode became a ghost, remembered only through VHS bootlegs and online leaks. But its impact was lasting. It proved how powerful television images could be, sparking medical emergencies and altering broadcast standards worldwide. What was meant to be another exciting adventure became one of the strangest accidents in animation history. Electric Soldier Porygon didn't just vanish, it left a scar showing how even a children's show can cross a line no one expected. Man's Best Friend, The Ren and Stimpy Show, 1992, unaired on Nickelodeon. In the early 1990s, Ren and Stimpy was Nickelodeon's rebellious hit, a show that thrived on pushing the limits of cartoon comedy. Gross-out gags, absurd violence, and surreal humor made it a cult sensation. But there was one episode that went too far, even for a network built on green slime. Man's Best Friend. Completed in 1992, the story introduced George Licker, a strict and eccentric man who adopts Ren and Stimpy. At first, the setup looked like another oddball adventure, but halfway through, the tone turned shockingly dark. In a now infamous sequence, Ren flies into a rage and viciously beats George with a giant wooden oar. Unlike slapstick violence seen in Looney Tunes, this scene lingered, drawn with disturbing detail. Nickelodeon executives were horrified. They had tolerated the show's boundary-pushing antics, but this crossed into genuinely uncomfortable territory. The decision was swift. The episode would never air. Behind the scenes, the fallout was even bigger. Creator John Kricfalusi was fired from the series, his departure marking a turning point in the show's chaotic history. For years, man's best friend became an urban legend. Fans whispered about leaked VHS tapes, convention screenings, and secret storyboards. It wasn't until much later, when DVD collections and reruns surfaced, that audiences finally saw the infamous lost episode. And indeed, it was every bit as brutal as the rumors suggested. The episode stands as a symbol of how easily creative ambition can collide with corporate caution. For Nickelodeon, the risk of alienating parents was too great. For fans, the episode became proof that Ren and Stimpy's madness was always one step away from spiraling out of control. Rude Removal, Dexter's Laboratory, 1998, unaired until 2013. Dexter's Laboratory was one of Cartoon Network's crown jewels in the late 1990s, praised for its wit and quirky humor. But in 1998, the creative team crafted an episode that the network deemed far too risky for its youthful audience. Titled Rude Removal, the story split Dexter and his sister Dee Dee into two versions: polite clones and their crude, foul-mouthed doubles. At first, the idea seemed clever, a morality tale about manners versus rudeness. But the execution turned shocking. The rude Dexter and Dee Dee spoke almost exclusively in profanity, their language bleeped but unmistakable through lip movements. The bleeped curses might have been funny to adults, but executives feared a tidal wave of angry parents accusing Cartoon Network of smuggling filth into children's programming. The decision was swift. Rude Removal would never air. Copies of the episode circulated quietly among animators and industry insiders, becoming the stuff of legend. Fans speculated endlessly online, posting alleged stills and incomplete scripts. For over a decade, the episode remained locked away, fueling a cult following that wanted desperately to see it. Finally, in 2013, Adult Swim, the late-night arm of Cartoon Network, released the episode online as a special treat. Fans who watched it were delighted, but also surprised. The forbidden episode was less shocking than the myth had promised. Still, the release confirmed the long-standing rumors and cemented Rude Removal as one of animation's strangest curiosities. In the end, the episode's true legacy wasn't its content. It was its absence. For 15 years, the cartoon no one could see became more powerful than the countless episodes that aired daily. Sometimes mystery is what turns an ordinary cartoon into legend. The lost episode, Courage the Cowardly Dog, 2000s, rumored and rare. Courage the Cowardly Dog was already one of the most unsettling children's cartoons ever produced. With its eerie monsters, surreal imagery, and gothic tone, it often blurred the line between horror and comedy. But whispers of a so-called lost episode took things to an even stranger level, creating one of the series' darkest legends. According to fans, there existed an unaired episode where Courage was drawn in a noticeably different, more distorted style. The backgrounds were pitch black, and the characters' voices sounded warped, as if recorded at the wrong speed. The story supposedly centered on Muriel falling gravely ill, with Courage frantically trying to save her. Unlike typical episodes where hope prevailed, this one reportedly ended ambiguously. Muriel silent, Courage sobbing into the darkness. Cartoon Network has never confirmed such an episode officially, but leaked clips and storyboard claims have circulated online for years. Some insist it was an abandoned pilot, others say it was an experiment never meant to air, and skeptics argue it was all a creepypasta myth, fueled by the show's naturally disturbing style. Whether real or invented, the lost episode gained its own cult status, embodying the way courage burrowed into viewers' childhood fears. Even without hard evidence, the rumor feels believable. After all, the series frequently brushed against nightmare fuel that seemed too intense for a children's cartoon. If true, the episode would stand as the darkest chapter in an already haunting show. If false, it still reflects the cultural power of Courage the Cowardly Dog, a cartoon so bizarre that people could easily imagine it hiding something more sinister just below the surface. Skeleton Dance. Episode Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, 2000s, pulled quickly. Disney is known for its meticulous family-friendly image, which is why reports of a skeleton episode from Mickey Mouse Clubhouse caused confusion and unease. Allegedly aired once in the early 2000s during a test run, the episode showed Mickey and friends encountering a troupe of dancing skeletons, a callback to Disney's 1929 short, The Skeleton Dance. On paper, it was a playful homage. But the execution unsettled parents. The skeletons weren't cheerful or cartoony. They were drawn in stark contrast to the show's usual bright colors. Their exaggerated movements and hollow eyes left many preschoolers frightened. Parent hotlines reportedly lit up with complaints, accusing Disney of sneaking horror imagery into a toddler's program. The episode was swiftly pulled from rotation and has never re-aired. Some argue it was a simple mistake in tone, animators eager to reference Disney's past, but overlooking how unnerving skeletons appear in modern preschool settings. Others claim it was an experiment to gauge reactions that backfired. What remains fascinating is how quickly the episode vanished. Disney has never officially acknowledged its existence, which has only deepened speculation. Bootleg screenshots occasionally appear online, but without confirmation, the truth remains hazy. For a company obsessed with control, this skeleton misstep stands as proof that even Disney can stumble. A few minutes of unsettling imagery turned into a ghost story of children's television, haunting parents and fans long after it was gone. Dark Harp, The Flintstones, 1963, aired once, then pulled. The Flintstones was marketed as wholesome, Stone Age family fun, a prehistoric parody of modern suburban life. But in 1963, one episode aired that left audiences unsettled, not amused. Titled Dark Harp, the story centered on Fred acquiring a mysterious harp said to be cursed. Instead of the usual slapstick antics, the episode leaned heavily into eerie, almost gothic themes. As the plot unfolded, strange accidents plagued the Flintstone household. The harp's music caused fights, paranoia, and near disasters. At one point, Wilma collapsed dramatically, leaving viewers shocked. For a primetime cartoon in the early 1960s, the tone was far darker than audiences expected. Some critics claimed it felt like a Twilight Zone episode smuggled into a family comedy. The backlash was swift. Parents complained about the episode being too frightening for children and in poor taste. The studio, already cautious about the Flintstones walking a line between kid-friendly humor and adult sitcom parody, decided to shelve the episode after a single airing. Unlike other installments, it was never rerun in syndication and is nearly impossible to find today. Historians argue that Dark Harp reflected the experimentation of early animated television. Writers were testing boundaries, unsure what audiences would accept. But the episode's eerie music, haunting visuals, and unsettling themes proved too risky for the Hanna-Barbera brand. Today, it exists only in fan recollections and scattered archival notes. Dark Harp reminds us that even the most cheerful cartoons sometimes dipped into shadows that networks preferred to erase from memory. Schnookums and Meat Halloween Special, Disney's Schnookums and Meat Funny Cartoon Show, 1995, vanished after airing. Disney's Schnookums and Meat was often described as the studio's attempt to mimic the edgy weirdness of Ren and Stimpy. For the most part, it stayed quirky but forgettable. However, its 1995 Halloween special aired once, shocked viewers, and then vanished from Disney's schedule altogether. The special featured Schnookums, the cat, and Meat the dog trapped in a haunted house filled with grotesque gags. Eyeballs popped, dismembered limbs danced, and dark humor replaced the usual slapstick. Some scenes even flirted with parodying horror classics like The Exorcist and Psycho. Parents who tuned in expecting Disney's typical light-hearted fare were horrified. Phone lines lit up with complaints, accusing the network of traumatizing children with grotesque imagery. For a brand that built itself on polished family values, this backlash was unacceptable. Within weeks, the episode was pulled from circulation and never released on home video. Animators later admitted they had been encouraged to push boundaries, competing with Nickelodeon's success. But Disney's tolerance for gross-out humor was far shorter, and the Halloween special became an unspoken embarrassment. Today, only fragments survive on fan recordings, making it one of the rarest Disney cartoons of the 1990s. Ironically, the very elements that doomed it, its grotesque creativity, are why fans still talk about it decades later. The Halloween special stands as a reminder that when Disney strays too far from its pristine image, it quickly buries the evidence. The Great Gazoo's misfire, The Flintstones, 1965, shelved quickly. By the mid-1960s, The Flintstones was struggling to maintain its cultural momentum. Enter The Great Gazoo, a tiny green alien introduced to revitalize the show. While Gazoo is remembered today as a strange late addition, there's one episode in particular that aired once and was quickly buried. The Great Gazoo's misfire. In this oddball installment, Gazoo uses his futuristic powers to grant Fred and Barney anything they desire. What starts as playful wish fulfillment turns chaotic, with entire buildings collapsing, citizens panicking, and strange sci-fi technology wreaking havoc on bedrock. Unlike the series' usual lighthearted tone, the episode leaned heavily into surreal destruction with eerie sound effects and unsettling visuals. Viewers found it jarring. Parents complained that the episode felt mean-spirited, while critics claimed it stripped away the warm, comedic core that had defined the show. Hanna-Barbera executives, realizing they had gone too far with Gazoo's bizarre antics, quietly removed the episode from rerun circulation. To this day, it's absent from most syndication packages, existing only as a collector's rarity on old recordings. Fans debate whether it was truly frightening or simply an awkward experiment in genre blending gone wrong. Either way, The Great Gazoo's misfire serves as a reminder that even beloved cartoons can stumble when chasing novelty too hard. Final Flight. Looney Tunes, 1960s, aired once in syndication. Few animation studios shaped childhood more than Warner Brothers with Looney Tunes. But buried among its golden era antics is a short often referred to by collectors as Final Flight. This episode aired once during a late-night syndication block in the 1960s before quietly vanishing. The short featured Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny competing in an airplane race. What began as typical slapstick, engines failing, wings falling off, took a dark turn. In the climax, both planes crashed spectacularly, leaving smoke trails and a somber silence instead of the usual punchline. Daffy lay dazed, muttering about the end, while Bugs simply stared out into the distance. There was no triumphant gag, no silly recovery, just an unsettling fade to black. Audiences weren't amused. Some called it inappropriate for children, others thought it carried uncomfortable undertones during an era marked by Cold War anxieties and fears of nuclear fallout. Warner Brothers, fiercely protective of its comedic image, pulled the short from circulation almost immediately. Over time, Final Flight faded into obscurity, surviving mostly through scattered 16mm reels and fan rumors. Its abrupt tonal shift, from comedic rivalry to haunting finality, cemented its reputation as one of the strangest and most uncharacteristic Looney Tunes episodes ever produced. Cartoons are remembered for their laughter, yet these lost episodes remind us they also carry shadows. Some frightened children, others angered parents, and a few were simply accidents too costly to repeat. Which of these vanishing cartoons surprised you most? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.